Ancient texts are filled with accounts of warriors possessing a colossal scale and terrifying physical presence. Beings like the Nephilim and Goliath are described with massive, heavy brows and bone structures that defied human limits. Surviving accounts detail a deep, booming resonance in their voices. When a giant issued a challenge across a valley, the sheer acoustic weight of their words was enough to paralyze ordinary soldiers in their ranks. For thousands of years, humanity classified these beings as supernatural monsters or an entirely separate mythological race. The physical evidence was buried under layers of religious allegory and fear. The historical record presents a series of ancient medical case studies waiting to be solved. In 1886, French neurologist Dr. Pierre Marie observed a distinct pattern of facial and skeletal hypertrophy in his patients. He gave a clinical name to the ancient terror: acromegaly. Acromegaly and its childhood equivalent, pituitary gigantism, are the result of a catastrophic genetic glitch. The body's biological blueprint misfires, forcing the skeletal structure to rapidly overproduce bone and tissue. The physical anomalies of this disease are documented well before Dr. Marie. The 14th century BC statues of Egyptian pharaoh Akhenaten clearly display the elongated jaw, heavy brow, and distorted proportions characteristic of the pathology. We see the exact same biological continuity in modern documented cases. Robert Wadlow reached a height of 8 feet 11 inches, requiring custom-built architecture to accommodate his massive frame. The legendary monsters of our past were humans suffering from a microscopic malfunction deep within their own biology. To find the origin, we travel deep inside the brain. At the base of the skull sits the pituitary gland, the master control center. This medical diagram illustrates the inciting incident, a pituitary adenoma. As this benign tumor grows, it hijacks the gland's normal functions. The master control center becomes a rogue factory, ignoring chemical signals telling the body to stop growing. The physiological consequence is a massive, uncontrollable release of somatotropin, growth hormone. A toxic flood of this chemical enters the bloodstream and aggressively pushes outward toward the extremities. A single microscopic error overwrites the human DNA sequence and permanently reprograms the body's master control system. The way this glitch manifests depends entirely on the biological timeline. If the hormone flood strikes a child before their skeletal growth plates fuse, the bones lengthen continuously, creating pituitary gigantism. If the hormone strike happens after puberty, the growth plates are already closed. The body cannot grow taller. Instead, it is forced to grow thicker, triggering acromegaly. Acromegaly causes brutal physiological remodeling. The most prominent feature is prognathism, a massive forward protrusion of the lower jaw as the bone expands outward. This is followed by severe soft tissue and secondary skeletal deformations. A heavy, protruding brow ridge forms over the eyes, and the cartilage in the hands and feet swells dramatically. The excess growth hormone causes soft tissue hypertrophy in the throat. It heavily thickens the vocal cords, producing the deep, booming voice recorded in ancient legends. The terrifying appearance of a giant is a human skeleton desperately building heavy structural reinforcements to survive its own uncontrollable growth. As the adenoma expands upward out of its cavity, it begins to crush the surrounding neurological architecture. The expanding mass presses directly against the optic chiasm. This compression causes bitemporal hemianopia, the complete loss of lateral peripheral vision. Apply this clinical diagnosis to a chaotic ancient battlefield. Goliath's massive size and strength were paired with a severe visual deficit. His biology made him physically incapable of seeing a smaller, agile opponent firing a slingshot from a lateral angle. We see this exact vulnerability documented in the 20th century with Primo Carnera, a massive heavyweight boxer with active acromegaly. He repeatedly lost his fights because this condition, bitemporal hemianopia, left him completely blind to devastating lateral hook punches. The exact biological mechanism that gave the giant his legendary power also engineered a fatal, inescapable vulnerability. The giants of ancient history were victims of their own hijacked biology. Beneath the heavy armor and the booming voice was a human skeleton, forced to build a monster against its will by a relentless chemical error. The exact genetic code required to build a Goliath exists right now, lying dormant inside every human viewer. DNA is the ultimate architect of monsters, waiting for a single microscopic misfire to wake them up. Subscribe to BioCosmos for more expeditions into the incredible machinery of the human body.